I mentioned earlier in the show that sand mining has been the centre of raging controversy for many years on North Stradbroke Island. Now, I quite often fly over the island, and I've noticed that apart from the areas where the actual dredges are working, it's very difficult to detect in most areas that sand mining has occurred. Now, that's made me curious. I've heard that Consolidated Rutile conduct an intensive revegetation and regeneration program. So while we're on the island here, I contacted CRL and asked them some pertinent questions about that program. I think you'll be surprised at the answers. Now, in order to understand the regeneration and revegetation process, it's first of all necessary to understand how a sand mine works. What happens is a large hole is excavated in the sand like that, and it's filled with water. Now, the mine, which we'll represent by that matchbox, operates in that hole. It's a dredge. It pulls the sand and water slurry from there, processes it, and drops the tailings out the back. So effectively what it's doing is pulling itself forward like that, moving forward, and the tailings are coming in behind, so that the hole in which it works, the lake, is moved through the island according to the best concentrations of the three elements that are mined. Now, before the mine is installed, agronomists and other people, scientists, come in. They assess the topography of the area that the mine is going to work, and they also do a detailed study of the species and concentration of the various types of flora that are in that area, and they make a record of it on a computer. Now, that's most important, because once the mine has gone through, all of this is regenerated into the original contours. The topsoil, by the way, has been removed and stored. There's about that much topsoil here, which contains the nutrients. It's recontoured, the topsoil is put back on, and then the revegetation process takes place. Now, down behind me there, you see a large mound of topsoil. Just over the horizon, where you see that bulldozer working, is the mine. And what's happening is the topsoil is being put on that recontoured land over there and being spread by the bulldozer. And as you get up closer to me, you see the revegetation taking place. Now, one of the first things that happens is sorghum is planted. Now, that helps to bind the surface together and stop the sand from being blown away or eroded by water. It also forms the basis of the nutrient chain, which is going to feed all the vegetation once it's been replanted. Now, this area here is around about 6 months old. In other words, 6 months ago the mine was right here. And have a look at what's happening. Interspersed in amongst the sorghum, if you'll come over here, are the original native trees returning. Now, there's a small bush. It's a prickly one, and I can't tell you the name. Here is a young gum tree. Now, in somewhere around 18 to 20 years' time, that gum tree will be 40 or 50 feet high and be back to exactly the stage and the size and the appearance of the original bush. Come on, I'll show you some of the areas that have been done for varying periods of time back into the past. This area was planted in June 1984, almost exactly 3 years ago. As you can see, acacias are predominant. Now, that is done deliberately because the acacias are fast growing. They also have a limited life, which means that they die, they fall to the ground, and they decompose, and the nutrients that they carry are then regenerated into the new vegetation. Interspersed with those acacias are plenty of conifers and also some young gums, which really are starting to look healthy and to spring up. And I guess this is the ultimate demonstration of the effectiveness of the program. This is the centre of the island. That side of the road has not been touched. It's never been mined, so the bush is exactly as it has been since the island was first formed. This side of the road was mined in 1974. The revegetation has taken hold. The sorghum, of course, has completely disappeared. Native vegetation has taken over, and it's a habitat for the birds and the wallabies and kangaroos, which again have lived here virtually since the island began. And it certainly is a graphic demonstration of the effectiveness of the program. Now, CRL carry out revegetation and regeneration in every single area of the island that they mine. It's done under the supervision of the Queensland Department of Mines, but CRL are proud of the fact that they exceed the standards laid down by the Department of Mines. Now, it's not just a question of forcing the vegetation back. As I mentioned earlier, the original topsoil is laid down over the recontoured dunes. Now that topsoil carries the seeds for most of the plants that you see here. So the regeneration effectively is a natural process, but a huge nursery is maintained on the island which grows native plants. A constant monitoring watch is kept on all of the areas, and if due to attrition or a storm or some other factor the native vegetation is sparse in certain areas, appropriate trees in the appropriate concentration of species are planted in that area. So the program really does bring the island back to where it was in the beginning. Now lots of people say, what about the gums? In areas that haven't been mined, the gums are 50 and 60 and 70 feet tall. Well, the only thing that can take care of that problem is time. As we've seen, 15 years or so after the original mining, the bush is back up to its normal height, the height that you see over most of the island. The height of the vegetation in most areas is controlled because it's a bushfire ecology, and that keeps the overall height of the trees down anyhow. And as time goes by, we'll see the island come back to where it was. Now this has been really interesting for me to cover this particular aspect of North Stradbroke Island. As I said at the beginning, it's been the source of enormous controversy and a lot of problems as far as the state government is concerned over many years, and CRL are to be commended on the tremendous job they're doing of returning this superb natural environment back to where it was.